What's really going on with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry after that appalling outing in New York City?
Momentarily. So 1 minute they're nice, the next they're nasty, literally. And then 5 minutes later, it's as if nothing ever happened. I know that the marriage is very up and down and rocky. And a man in a situation like that, who is a much weaker man and much less intelligent, the woman, if she's the more dominating partner in the marriage, will be able to set the agenda, and the man is then using his intelligence against himself sometimes.
Picture this: a luxurious Manhattan hotel suite buzzing with stylists, assistants, and eager publicists. Meghan stands at the center, preparing for what she proudly calls their return to grace. Meanwhile, Harry paces by the window, phone in hand, flashing a calm smile at the glittering city skyline.
And she has to listen to that before heading out on stage, knowing that she has a hostile audience because of her lies.
This was meant to be the night they proved to the world that the Sussex name still stood for power, elegance, and undeniable relevance. The NYC Humanitarian Awards had invited them to receive a prestigious honor for their charitable work. Cameras were ready to flash, headlines were set to shine, and every single detail was planned down to the very last minute.
Me, that reporting lady, and as I say, this has been briefed directly from Team Sussex, was such a 180 for Meghan Markle. And of course, she's completely shameless in how she's done that. But it's because there is deep down this acknowledgement.
Everything was arranged from wardrobe choices to tight security, even their flight details. But then came the call. A representative from the awards committee informed their team that the request for a private jet, fully funded by the event sponsors, had been denied. No explanation, just a polite but firm response. We can't accommodate that. For a couple accustomed to luxury and red carpet treatment, that single word no hit harder than anyone expected. Harry was said to be furious, while Meghan stood completely stunned.
Holy crap, none of this has worked, so we are going to have to massively change strategy. And she's being, I obviously think it's dastardly.
For them, this wasn't just about transportation, it was about respect. They weren't simply asking for a plane, they were asking for recognition, a reminder of who they believed they still were. But this time, the world didn't bow. To understand why this rejection cut so deep, we need to go back to Paris the moment everyone thought would be Meghan Markle's grand comeback. Her big I'm back and unstoppable moment that was supposed to rewrite the narrative forever.
Have a kind of certain banter, which Harry used to thoroughly enjoy, pretty sexist and misogynist and so on and so on. And they're spraying around all their normal jokes. And Meghan is picking them up on every single one.
She sat front row at Balenciaga, cameras flashing as her chin lifted high like she owned the entire room. But behind all that shimmer, the air felt icy cold. No hugs, no warm smiles, just silent glances that said everything without a word. Fashion insiders whispered that she wasn't truly invited and that her outfit wasn't a custom creation, but merely a loan tag still attached. In that exclusive world, borrowed clothes send a quiet but brutal message: you don't belong here. And then the rumors began to swirl.
At Sandringham, a weekend shooting party, which was quite normal for Harry, and he just thought they'd all get on together, but in fact the opposite. I mean, Meghan is someone who doesn't hold herself back from complaining about people's way of manner, their way they talk, the way they behave, and all the rest of it.
Word spread quickly that she had taken a drive through that tunnel, the same one where Princess Diana's life tragically ended, claiming she didn't know its history. But everyone who knows Meghan knows she absolutely did. To many, it felt like an imitation taken too far, a woman trying to mirror a legend instead of standing as her own. By the time she left Paris, the cameras still clicked, but the warmth had vanished. The applause that once roared was now merely polite and painfully distant.
What was amusing was on the way home from Sandringham, they're all texting each other, oh my God, what a nutter, how on earth can he stay with her? And the same then happened when they went to Tommy Inskip's wedding in Jamaica, which is a great friend of Harry's, who in the end was banned from the dinner after their wedding.
The city that once adored Diana had no room left for imitation. So when the NYC Awards came around, Meghan saw them as her golden redemption, a stage to erase the memory of Paris and prove that the crownless Duchess could still command awe. Every single detail was meticulously planned. The glam, the route, even the jet, nothing was left to chance. Because this wasn't just another public appearance, it was her grand escape from humiliation and a desperate grasp at lost glory.
Saw all these celebrities filing in.
Exactly.
Who'd known her about 3 minutes.
Yeah, if that. And Meghan was really, she controls everything. So it was a great cameo.
Tell me
Meghan.
about the Queen. The Queen apparently, you report, didn't want Meghan at Philip's funeral. Why?
But when that call came, when the sponsors turned down her request for a private jet, it wasn't just a no, it was an echo of Paris all over again. A painful reminder that the royal spell was beginning to fade. On paper, the NYC Humanitarian Awards is all about real impact, people changing lives, uplifting communities, and giving without expecting applause. But behind the curtain, things looked very different. Harry and Meghan's team treated the event like a red carpet premiere, not a charity celebration. Emails poured out, filled with demands and special requests. From the lighting setup to the type of water bottles in their dressing room, every tiny detail had to align perfectly with the brand.
Well, she didn't want to be the attention diverted from Philip. If Meghan had been there, she would have got all the attention. I mean, the Harry walk up the hill with William that just showed how the media was focused on the reconciliation and everything after Oprah. So when she said to one of her aides, "Thank goodness Meghan isn't coming."
But one particular request made everyone raise an eyebrow. Their team asked that the flight to New York be covered through sponsorship in plain terms. They wanted someone else to foot the bill for their private jet. The reasoning behind it? Optics. Their spokesperson allegedly claimed that flying commercial could lead to uncontrolled situations, cameras flashing, crowds gathering, total chaos. So, according to them, a private jet wasn't a luxury at all. It was a necessity. But to the event organizers, that explanation sounded completely tone deaf. After all, these awards honored people dedicating their lives to helping others, not celebrities chasing comfort on someone else's dime.
Queen that kicked them off the balcony at the Jubilee?
Well, I think it was the Queen, but also I'm sure Charles and William had a big say in that. They weren't going to allow Netflix to dominate their big celebration.
When I read quite a few of the anecdotes in the extracts, there's a lot of diva-like behaviour from Meghan Markle, very controlling about her image when she does a vote.
When the denial came, it was quiet but intentional, a message wrapped in politeness. One insider didn't hold back, saying, if you want to honor humanitarian work, maybe start by practicing humility. That's when the cracks in the crown truly began to show. What once looked like royal privilege now came off as plain self-importance, and even New York's elite didn't want to sponsor that image anymore. After the rejection, Harry's team pushed back hard. Their defense was simple: safety. They pointed to Paris, recalling how chaotic it had been, describing moments when Meghan was hunted through the streets after the Balenciaga show.
That she had no idea what she's really getting into.
Oh, on the contrary, I think she's a very scheming, very clever woman. No, I think the surprising thing at the end of the book, I realized how successful she'd been. Here was a woman who was nothing. I mean, born, broken family, the whole thing.
But those who were actually there tell a very different story. The so-called chaos wasn't some unexpected ambush. It was carefully curated. Her route had been made public in advance, and cameras were conveniently tipped off. It looked less like danger and far more like a photo opportunity that spun completely out of control. Even the drive through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the same tragic spot where Princess Diana lost her life, was reportedly filmed, supposedly without her knowledge. But insiders didn't believe that for a second.
Broken family, the whole thing, an unknown actress, all the rest of it, becomes a global star, which is what she wanted. When she was about 9 or 10, she said to her father, I want to be famous, I want to walk down the red carpet. And she has now done that. And
Whispers spread that she knew exactly what she was doing, chasing the emotional power of Diana's legacy to reignite her own fading spotlight. And that's what made the New York jet request feel so hollow. Meghan and Harry weren't simply asking for privacy, they were asking for control, the power to choreograph every single frame of how the world saw them. So, when the awards committee said no, it wasn't just a rejection of cost, it was a rejection of control itself. Behind closed doors, the truth was far simpler. The Paris incident had already shown the world that not every flash of a camera was a threat, and not every headline was an attack.
that she could be a great success. And by marrying Harry, she did it. And so
Are
I
they in
think-
trouble now, though? Is the Sussex brand on the downward slope? A lot of American friends of mine are completely done with them, which they weren't even a year ago.
Sure. And this
Some moments weren't about danger at all. They were just reflections of ambition pushed a little too far. Inside the foundation's headquarters, the discussion was brutally direct. The organizers and sponsors knew that the Sussexes guaranteed global attention, flashing cameras, endless press, and headlines around the world. But along with all that fame came controversy, and plenty of it. So when the private jet request landed in the boardroom, the mood shifted instantly. Enough was enough. One senior executive reportedly asked, "If we cover their travel, what message does that send to our honorees, the people who show up expecting nothing in return?" The room fell silent after that.
I wouldn't be sad at all, because they pose a real threat to the royal family.
Well, that's what I've felt from the reason I've been so exercised about them is I think they are destroying a lot of the magic of the monarchy. They're calling the...
And that was the breaking point. The decision was unanimous, the request was denied, the expenses were capped, and the event would go on without giving in to celebrity demands. To the public, it looked like nothing more than a quiet behind-the-scenes choice, barely noticeable. But inside the Sussex camp, it hit like an earthquake. For the first time in years, they were being reminded of a harsh truth. Their names alone no longer guaranteed privilege, power, or that automatic red carpet treatment they once took for granted.
Without producing any hard evidence to support any of these
On
claims.
the contrary.
And it's
actually
incredibly damaging.
Actually telling untruths.
Yeah.
And I think that was terrible. That's really why I wrote the book, because I just thought this woman is really doing something quite dreadful to Britain. And Harry has...
The press hadn't broken the story yet, but the whispers were already spreading like wildfire. Phones were buzzing, PR teams were scrambling, trying desperately to twist the narrative, calling it a simple scheduling issue or a harmless miscommunication. But deep down, everyone involved knew the truth. This wasn't just another logistical hiccup, it was a turning point in power. For years, Harry and Meghan had built their empire on the illusion that they could merge celebrity influence with royal grace. But the cracks in that illusion were starting to show. And behind the glittering glow of New York's skyline, their carefully crafted image was quietly beginning to fall apart.
fallen in love with her in a ludicrous way and has gone along as her accomplice.
What about Thomas Markle in all this? He's had a big stroke. I'm told he can't even talk at the moment. He's not heard a word from his daughter. He brought her up for years on his own.
There's something almost heartbreaking about it all. Harry walked away from the royal family searching for freedom, yet somehow he's still chasing permission. Permission to be seen, to be heard, to feel special again. That's why the jet denial struck such a deep nerve. It was never just about a plane, it was about being told that the privileges he once took for granted no longer applied. Ever since stepping down, he's been fighting battles on every side against tabloids, government offices, and even the very institutions that once shielded him. He frames it all as injustice, as if the world is punishing him for wanting privacy. But critics see it differently, and their take cuts deeper.
Brought her up for years on his own. Wasn't at the wedding for reasons we all know, but what's your sense about him?
Well,
in all this?
I went down to Mexico and spent 2 days with him. And of course, you can't have anything other than sympathy for a man who...
Harry never truly learned how to live without privilege. He may have traded palaces for mansions, crowns for cameras, and royal duty for brand deals, but the expectations never changed. That's the quiet truth behind the NYC rejection. It wasn't personal, it was a sharp reality check. Even the grandest titles mean nothing once the respect behind them fades away. So when the night of the awards finally arrived, there was no private jet soaring through the clouds, No royal motorcade slicing through Manhattan traffic, just a modest black SUV gliding through the city lights, blending into the crowd like every other car on the road.
It's the constant change of mood. But I tell you what I think is going on personally. And this is just my hunch.
Inside that car, two people sat in heavy silence, once the world's most photographed couple, now staring down a truth too big to ignore. Their names still open doors, but far fewer than before. Their smiles still attract cameras, but now for very different reasons. It's not hatred anymore, it's exhaustion, quiet fatigue. The world has simply moved on. And that jet that never left the ground became something bigger, a symbol of how quickly privilege fades when it's mistaken for purpose, and how influence can vanish the moment humility slips away.
But I think they were in total accord with each other, and I think they are basically in total accord with each other on one level.
For years, they've told the world their story, the battles, the betrayal, the bravery, but the story people see now feels quieter and lonelier. Because when the applause fades into silence and the opportunities start to dry up, only one question remains: what do you stand for when the spotlight finally turns away? As the credits of this chapter slowly fade, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The Sussexes aren't running out of headlines, they're running out of second chances. The jet may have stayed grounded that night, but perhaps so did they.